start off by showing you some basic tosses, how to do them, the hand positioning, the practice points in order to learn them. Go over them, make sure you have them down. From there, I give you some examples of sequences which allow you to go from one toss to the next, keeping it smooth. You get a nice transition and a good sequence. And the nice thing about it is what I'm sharing is full deck false. Definitely doesn't have to be, but I think if you're going to put in the time and effort, why not make it false, right? The tosses are taught individually, one, so you can learn them, and two, so you can use them anytime you want, put it together in your own sequences, and combine them, come up with some great stuff. There's lots of potential with it, so I really hope you put some creative effort and come up with something good. I think you'll be impressed. One thing to keep in mind when you're creating your own sequences is to vary it up. Give a bunch of different tosses, make it look interesting, as well as try to make the crosses, use them effectively. So what I mean by that is if you do a toss and your catch, you notice that you have to square the deck. You don't always catch it perfectly. The cross can simply allow you to square the deck at that point without it losing the smoothness and the rhythm in the entire sequence. So it keeps that nice fluid continuity to it. And if you structure it right, it'll be built in and it'll give you that extra time anyways, as well as making it visually pleasing. It also allows you to break packets, you know? That crossing, moving up, gives you a little bit extra time to break another packet, which is dead time if not, and you can really add further tosses, packet flips to those sequences and make it more interesting. So take advantage of that. Really make sure you think about what you're going to do, and of course have fun with it, play around with it, and try to make it smooth. Try to build it so you can do it smoothly when you land it. Of course, when you practice the tosses, be sure to use a deck that's worn in, broken in a little bit. It doesn't have to be really old. Sometimes it's even harder when it's really old and the cards are all bent out of shape. But definitely use a deck that works well with it. If you are really having trouble or the cards just don't seem to be working right, what you could do is try applying a little bit of fanning powder to it, see if that helps. It typically makes all the cards a bit more even, everything to just stay together better. Although it isn't entirely necessary, you can, of course, do it with cards of varying conditions, and it even is possible. I wouldn't suggest it, but it's possible to do it with a brand new deck. I happen to have one here right now, and let me just give it a shot to show you. Once again, of course, do it with the deck that works best for you, and make it work for yourself rather than working against yourself. But just to show you that it is possible, let me remove some of the ad cards. New deck here, and just a simple toss to show you. It is possible to do it. I wouldn't recommend it though, but there you have it. Explanation to the toss that's based on the instant replay or simple switch types of tosses Paul Harris used. It's tripping over the fingers. So essentially it's like you're rolling it, but you toss it and you release it and it does that same action. But it's a versatile toss, and it's not that hard to do, but you have to get used to controlling it. So a different number of cards require a different amount of pressure. And a lot of the tosses I use require both hands in various forms. You might also have to do various catches, which we'll go over as well. But just to show you the versatility of it, and of course even the juggles, where you're actually switching packets. It uses that same form of toss. So we're going to go over just tossing it back and forth with the top packet. So you lift up just like you would in a Charlie A cut. And I say maybe we'll do at this point just a small packet, maybe like a fourth of the deck, third or fourth, that's fine. Put your finger in and you slightly kick back. If necessary, you can kick back the packet. If you can bend your first finger underneath and not kick it back, even better. It's one less step. So bend your first finger in and onto the lower packet. So you can move the top packet down and position your thumb so you can apply pressure down and near the corner. The fingers, of course, are applying pressure down. So you're going to release with the thumb so it basically flips this way off the fingers, like so. But you should first try to just flip it at this point. Let it fall fingers to fingers, and then just flip to the other hand, because that's the position you want. And if you do this, it'll just take a little more pressure to let it flip, and do the same thing. Now you can try moving the right hand underneath slightly, so you don't have to snap it all the way across when you're starting. So it kind of just trips over and almost rolls down. So it's just a little bit of a bend here and a release. And it'll automatically just do that. So once you have it in this hand, a good practice thing is to do the opposite, to go back the other way. So it might be a little easier for you because you don't have an extra packet underneath at this point. So you do the same thing. First finger underneath, applying some pressure upwards. The thumb, applying some pressure down near the corner. I mean, it doesn't have to be at the corner, but near it. And the fingers applying pressure down here. So first finger, pressure upwards. Fingers applying pressure downwards. Thumb applying pressure downwards. And you release with the thumb. So if you want to start off, once again, you can have this hand a little lower, and then you just release with the thumb. So it'll fly off the fingers. Now, with this catching hand being a little lower, you don't have to apply as much pressure. However, if it's directly horizontal, you might have to either give it a little bit of a toss or apply more pressure when you do the toss, just to get it to actually make the distance and land correctly, because you want it to be face down and face down. So try to practice tossing them back and forth, regripping, recutting it. Of course, the less amount of toss, the more controllable it is. And you can mess around with the distance as well. Of course, you may have to add a little bit of a toss. And it's just a little bit of a hand motion, not a complete toss. So a lot of it's based on the pressure. Almost dropped it there, but a lot of it's based on the pressure. And you will have to practice the distances, because your hands get used to applying a certain amount of pressure and doing it one way, and then you increase the distance and it's going to throw it off, because it still has to do that same amount of revolutions to land the same way, but has a longer period of time, so it's going to have to go slower when it's further out. This is the same one used for the juggle. So get used to doing it with both hands and practice it. Practice it. And remember, mess around with the different distances and adjust to make it work. There are different catches involved with this as well. I was showing you just what is like a mirror image almost, where they both sort of start in the same position and land in the same position. But you can also turn upwards this way, like this. And you may have to do like an up and a down in order to catch it. Of course, with some practice, you could just land it as well, where you don't have to do that downward swipe. But it doesn't hurt if you do. I say move both hands up and move both hands down. Try to keep it slight and a minimum, because you want to show that there's distance with it. So by the time you catch it, you should be at the same distance about as you started. So once again, this way, turning with the thumb down, first finger curled, 3 fingers here. And you're just tossing the same way. Once again, you may have to do just a little bit of motion to get some inertia there going, but not an entire toss, like a big toss. You're using the same action as if you were tossing this way. You just have a little bit of like a pre-swing, I guess, but just a little bit of movement there. So a go and a stop combined with the toss. Go there and stop. And then, of course, you go back down right after that. Toss this way, toss that way. You can also practice with different amounts of cards, because it will change the amount of pressure needed to do it, as well as trying different distances as well, and the different catches. And of course, you can mess around with both hands. So it will take quite a bit more practice to get this, even after you've gotten this one, because your timing has to be more precise. For the juggle, what you have to do for the juggle is essentially both hands are going to be doing the same type of toss towards each other. I use a little bit of a toss to do it because I do more of a light toss with it. You have to see what works best for you on this, but essentially one packet's going over, the other packet's going under this way, so it's like it's going straight across here, and it's going over here, so they're slightly different. So almost like going in a circle. This one, I'm using my right hand to toss it up and above. I'm using the left hand to toss it straight across. So that's what it looks like. And the left hand that I use is more of a quick toss across versus more of a lighter, slower toss with the right. And I found that when I'm doing this, I tend to turn the hand that's tossing up and above slightly versus the other hand, which is more flat. And it's not exact, there's still a little slant to it, but there's more of a slant on the one that I'm tossing above than the one that I'm tossing across. It seems to help just a little bit. Now you have to practice doing it. Try it close when you start. Get it controllable. Find out what you can control, and then try to spread it out a little bit. And it becomes a little more difficult, and the tosses are a little slower because obviously you want it to land, but they're still face down when you do it. but practice for different distances so you can get a nice look to it. And once again, this is a lighter toss, and it's less of a quick snap and more of a toss the farther out you go. And it'll take some practice just to get the coordination, but if you can toss with this hand and you can toss with this hand, you can make it work. You know, try to do an upward toss and try to do the sidewards toss with the other hand separately with just one packet. See what you can control, and then go ahead and try both of them. I mean, be ready to pick up the cards. You're probably not going to get it the first few times, but eventually you will. All right, here's a variation of this toss where you just catch it in the same hand. So in this case, it's just the top packet that's flipping and landing back on top. There's a nice snapping look, similar to a TG flip. Of course, you're doing this style of toss instead, where it's being released by the thumb and flipping off of the fingers, but it's just landing back on top. So that's what it looks like. To do it, you lift off a small portion, insert the index finger, curl it around, reposition, just as if you were to toss this packet to the other hand, but in this case, you apply a little more pressure, release with the thumb, let it pivot off the fingers, so it'll just flip, land back on top, facing the same way. So that's what it looks like. So again, this is what you do, just like that. And it's worth practicing it in both hands, because if you want to do the Juggler's Nightmare sequence, it uses the flip in both hands. Variation of the toss this way is to instead go up this way. So it's sort of a reverse hand positioning. And in this case, instead of going off the fingers this way, you're releasing with the fingers and it's going off the thumb. But it's very similar to just tossing this way. It's used in place of that. I like to go up a little high and just kind of let it trip over the thumb, essentially. So what you're doing is you have it within this position and your first finger points back towards yourself as you turn. So you're transferring it up. You're basically just moving up this way. So you're moving your first finger under this way to hinge it up as you're turning. It's just like that. So just those three fingers, the middle finger, the thumb, and the first finger. Points back, first finger points back, kicks it up, and it pivots off the middle finger and the thumb, but it's the first finger kicking it from underneath. So as you turn, so the thumb is facing down, you're going to release with your middle finger while applying some pressure with the first finger, which will cause it to trip over the thumb and flip over. It's hard to do slowly, but that's essentially what's happening. So it's like that. And release with the middle, pressure with the first finger so it trips over the thumb, and it'll land, of course, back facing the proper way. So all it takes is that from here, from the position that you would toss it and catch it. First finger goes underneath, and you reposition by the time you get up here. So then you could do the toss by the time you're up there. The explanation to the T.G. Murphy deck flip, which looks like that. Start off by curling your first finger underneath the pack. It's going to be there to apply pressure upwards. Your thumb is going to apply some pressure downwards, and it's right about this area, not quite at the corner, but up towards it. Just some slight pressure down while the first finger applies some slight pressure up. And I use the pinky on this side to apply some pressure down. You can use the other fingers though. It doesn't have to specifically be the pinky, but that's what I like to do. So it's really some pressure down here, and upward pressure here. So it'll flip, and if you apply the pressure correctly, it'll flip all the way over in a quick snap. That's what it looks like. So once again, it's that pressure down. I apply it right about here. Apply some pressure down with the pinky as well, and pressure up with the first finger underneath to get it to flip, and it flips this way towards the thumb. So you're releasing with the pinky and all the fingers on the side, which causes it to flip this way and around. So you want to get it to just flip and stay the same way. So that's the goal. You may start and try flip it, and if you're not applying enough pressure, you'll get it to flip over like halfway. So you're doing it right, just apply a little more pressure to get it to do the full flip. And that's typically what you want to do, is just that full flip and that quick flip. So once again, it's that thumb, and I kind of apply pressure not at the exact corner, but right about there on the cards. And it's with the first joint of the thumb. Pinky over here, near the corner. Once again, not quite at the corner. It's about where the thumb is up here. You do the pinky towards the other side, so approximately. And the first finger just up, sort of near the center. You could have it off to the side a little bit. You have to experiment with the exact position to make it work for you. So that's what it is. That's what it looks like. The variation of this is to have the top packet flip to the other hand. And it really works along the same mechanics as just doing the regular flip in the hand, except you lift up on the top packet, put the index finger in, and just sort of reposition your hand, and just ignore the bottom packet. You're doing the same flip, you're just not applying as much pressure to get it to stay in the same place. You're just releasing it and letting it land into the other hand. So the pressure points are the same as before. You're just doing it with the top portion of the packet, and you got to try it out. You can, by experimenting, you can get it to either flip and snap, land there, or you can do more of a toss action with less pressure, and you can get a similar result with a little different look. So that's what it looks like. And really, like I said, you have to try it out, see where it lands so you know where to place your hand, so you don't have to try to adjust and grab it. But it will take some practice. You may actually find this easier than trying to do the full flip in one hand, because you do apply more pressure when you're doing just the flip in the hand. Another similar variation is with the other hand you can do, and I tend to use it. I do more of a toss. Like I was mentioning, you can do more of a toss at points. I tend to do more of a toss with the hand up and over and catch it here as well. So you could do it with a snap if you prefer, but in some of the cuts I do a toss around. And it's the same sort of a concept, except I'm using inertia and I'm having it trip over the thumb, so I'm not applying as much pressure to get it to flip and snap, but just let it release with the fingers and let it trip over the thumb that way, so it'll flip around and land on the packet. So it looks like that. You can, of course, do that in place of some of the quicker snapping flips. You just have to make sure that in your sequence the timing is correct, and you adjust for that, because you'll be doing the flips and you know the timing of the flips that you'll use. So maybe you have to do a slower moving around this way, or you may have to do like a wider action just to compensate for the little bit extra toss in there that's involved. So once again, you have to try some of these out, and they are really related, but each one takes a little bit of practice because it's different. You're going this way with this hand versus going the opposite way, tripping it over this way with this hand, or just keeping it in the same hand. So that's sort of the thing. Just remember, when you're practicing various tosses in different forms, when you're learning them, even after you can do it, you're going to drop the cards. So just be mindful of that. The more you do it, the less chances you're going to drop it, and you get the actions practiced, memorized, muscle memory. You can do it better. There's still always a chance of dropping it. The cards may be in a bad condition, or you may be doing a toss that's slightly different. So just be aware of it, don't be worried about it, and go on from there. You know it can happen, so just be ready for it. Near the ending of a lot of sequences, you'll see a combination of a TG flip followed by another flip in various forms. So it looks like that. Essentially, you're just doing the two flips. but with a little bit of distance, you can do them at the same time. And it has a neat look to it because two things are happening at once, and it happens quickly. It almost looks like the packet being tossed is going underneath it, but it's not. It's just landing on top. So, of course, try it first with the TG flip first, followed by the ending flip. And later, with a little bit of distance, you can try it where you release them both at the same time, and you can land it, and you can do it from different angles and distances. And it has a nice ending look and feel to it. So that's just to give you a little bit of a look at it, since it sort of happens automatically in a lot of the sequences. So give it a little bit of practice. It will take a little more practice than just doing one flip and the next, but I think it adds a nice look and ending feel to it. Here's a simple juggle sequence that you can do. Looks just like that. So you first just toss this one over, then you are going to do that juggle, and then the last thing's just a little bit different. You move your index finger underneath to move it up as you toss this over, and you just squeeze and catch it. The nice thing about it is it keeps the deck in order, and it has a nice flashy look to it. So there you go. Here's the explanation to triple assault. Something just like that. Keeps the deck in order as well. So the first thing is that toss that we talked about. So you move the hand up, you do the toss this way, then the right hand swings over under until it crosses, then you do the TG flip with the left, and then the other TG to flip over and catch. The interesting thing is it looks like there's 3 packets when you do it. There's really only 2 packets. It's just there's 3 flips. So it has a nice look to it. Looks just like that. Have fun. Here's the explanation to Cryptic circus. It looks something like that. All right, start off by crossing your right arm underneath your left, breaking the packet. You can do half, you can even do a third if you like. You're going to TG flip it over to the other hand. Now you uncross. As you do so, your left hand is going to move its index finger below and to pivot the packet up as you move up and turn over. Simply like that. Now your right hand is going to toss. You need to do a little bit of a toss as you do the standard flip, releasing it this way. And you're going to catch between that index finger and that middle finger. So it's a little bit different than the other tosses, but with a little bit of practice, you can do it. So it looks like that. So caught between the index finger and the middle finger here. Now turn down, turn this way, and you're going to rotate the packet that you were just holding in the left hand face down as you cross your hands again. So here it is again. Like so. So you cross the hands. The left hand is going to move its index finger underneath so you can lever the packet up as you prepare to toss this packet, releasing so it tumbles around the thumb, releasing with the fingers, and you just close and square here, which looks like that. Here's the explanation to aerial attack, which looks something like that. Start off by crossing the hands, right hand underneath, flip over the top packet. As your hands uncross, you're going to prepare to break another packet, and you're going to flip it up and catch it, just like we did previous. However, you're holding on to a packet here, but it's the same idea. You toss up, catch down. So it looks like that. So after the uncross, toss up, catch down. Now you're going to turn back over, go back around, cross again, and you're going to toss the packet. So make sure when you toss and catch it, your index finger is caught in between, so you can keep a break between the packets. So the right hand comes over. Now you're going to do the other variation of the TG, tossing just this top packet back over onto the left hand packet, like so. And you end by uncrossing again, doing a TG flip here as you rotate the packet up, and you do a flip this way. So it ends flip, flip. There's another way you can start it as well. You can also start it this way by doing a flip this way, then going through the sequence. So that's another variation you can play with. Here's the explanation to Juggler's Nightmare, which looks something like this. Start off by doing the standard toss by breaking off about half the deck, tossing it over to the right hand. Then you're going to cross your hands, the right hand going under the left. As you do this, you start breaking a small packet in your left hand, so you can toss it and catch it in the same hand. And you're going to do the same thing repeated just with the right hand. So you do a toss in the left, a toss in the right. Now you uncross, and you're going to do the basic juggle sequence, followed by tossing the right hand packet over the left arm as you cross to catch it, like so. Now you can do an optional TG flip with the right hand if you have it nicely squared, and then you just TG this one with the left over. It's a difficult sequence to do, but it has a lot of different flips, and it shows a lot of nice variation in it, so have fun with it. One nice thing about the aerial tosses is the fact that even though you want them smooth, if they don't turn out to be as smooth as you want, the fact that you did it and caught it is pretty amazing in and of itself. And really, spectators that are watching can appreciate that. You know, you're tossing packets in the air, mixing it up, and you catch it. It's pretty amazing. So that's the one really nice thing about it. And if you can do those tosses, you got that advantage.